We are on location in Prince George with Darrin Rigo, a local photographer and videographer. Darrin, really excited to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
This is great because you're part of the reason why I got into video production.
Wow.
Everybody's got their
Yeah.
idols. Like Peter McKinnon was one of the people why.
Same.
Oh yeah,
Of course.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Peter McKinnon.
I met him, by the way. Fun fact.
Okay, we're gonna just stop the introduction. I want to hear about that.
It's a longer story than I'll give you the condensed version. But so it was 2018. I consider it to be one of the most like fateful moments of my life. I was like an early adopter of Peter McKinnon. Like 2018, Peter McKinnon was like still very much up and coming. That was like on the slope, I would say, of like when he was really rising. Watched every video, like talked to my then girlfriend like endlessly about him, like borderline obsession with Peter McKinnon. Looking at Janet. Yeah, I think he captured a lot of our like. I think like if you were a young like a creative looking to get into like videography or photography, he was like a really big Canadian icon for a lot of us. I think for you as well. And I worked for the university at the time, and I had a last minute switcheroo. I wasn't supposed to be on this trip. The recruiter who was going got a concussion, so then I got swapped in like a day before the plane ride kind of thing. So I get shipped across Canada to Toronto, and I had just made the decision to like get back into photography, like maybe 6 months prior. So that was kind of where I was in. I had just bought a camera, was like just kind of like figuring out my new style and what I wanted to do. And I remember having this weird thought of being like, oh, it'd be so weird if I ran into Peter McKinnon like while I'm in Ontario. Like that would be so weird. And I just imagined this like meeting of us like running into each other in like downtown Toronto or something like that. So I did bring my camera on the trip, and I did take a lot of photos on the trip. Anyways, stayed downtown, didn't run into him obviously, because what are the odds of that? And then I had a student meeting up in where I now know he, at the time at least, he lived, which was Newmarket, which is where him and Maddie's office is. It's on the main street of Newmarket. Anyways, they didn't own that office at the time. That was before that whole saga. Anyway, so such a long story. I'm in Newmarket. My student meeting gets moved like 10 times that morning. Like the coffee shop we tried to go to was closed. The next one we went to, I can't remember. There was like an electricity, or their power was out or something. So we moved coffee shops that I was meeting with the student and her mom like 3 times. And on the way to like the 4th move, I saw that there was a Henry's camera store, and I was like, oh, mental note, I want to go look at used camera gear, as we always do. So I end up going through my student appointment. I go down to the Henry's camera store afterwards, talking to the owner, super nice dude. We have like a 30-minute chat just about like cameras and stuff like that. And like TMI, I really had to use the washroom while him and I were talking. And I was like, I have to go. Like, and so I kind of left prematurely, and I kind of like skedaddled out of there, found Tim Hortons down the road or whatever, used the washroom. And this is the part that like feels a bit floofy and fadey, but for whatever reason, I was like, I felt pulled to go back. I don't know why. Like, I was like, oh, I kind of want to go talk to that guy more or whatever. And I felt like I maybe didn't like look at the gear enough or something. Anyway, so I go back to the store, end up talking to the owner again. We're like locked in a conversation, and he's like, so like, who are your inspirations? Like, who really, inspires you? And I was like, oh, I'm like obsessed with this guy, Peter McKinnon. Like, I watch all of his videos. And from behind me, I get a kind of a pat on the back, and I go, I'm not that great. And I'm like, I'm not that great. I turn around, and Peter's standing right there.
No
and
way.
I was like, what? And he's like, that is so funny. And I like look at the owner. I'm like, what the? He's like, Peter worked here. This is the camera store that he always talks about that he worked at, is the Henry's on the main street of Newmarket. And I was like, this is that camera store? And Peter was filming. You can go back and look. It was a video about like neon light photography, like at night. And so he was picking up some filters and stuff like that. And so I ended up getting to talk to Peter for like 10, 15 minutes. Wow. It was amazing. As he's he's like, anyways, I gotta go, man. I'm like, yeah, for sure, like, awesome. And then he's like leaving, and as he's leaving, he's like, hey, this is weird that I'm saying this. He's like, do you want to take a photo together? And I was like, yeah, of course. So we took like a cool photo together that I still have. It's like printed on the office wall, on my office wall. And the best part for me, the proof of it all, is afterwards I tweeted that photo, tagged him. I was like, oh, great to meet Peter McKinnon or whatever. The owner of the camera store, if you go to, you can find that tweet. The owner of the camera store commented on the tweet and was like, that timing was crazy. It's unbelievable he like walked in while we were talking to him, which is like a nice little stamp of like reality. Like that happened, that moment was, because sometimes I'm like, did it happen like that? That's so unbelievable. Sorry, that was like interrupted you, but yeah, that felt like a little confirmation, whether you believe in fate or not, of like being right place, right time.
Yeah, no kidding. Like that's an unbelievable story to meet somebody like that, because like it must have meant so much. That's why you don't remember it. Like
it was out of body. Like the whole
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
felt, and I'm so thankful for the photo. I'm really thankful for that tweet. I'd been dating my wife now, but I'd only been with her for like 2 months. And so I like got into my little rental car and I was like, Brittany, you're never gonna believe. Like I was blown away. And he was like, you know, it was a short interaction. We only 10 minutes, but like he was everything I kind of hoped he would be. He was like, yeah, he had a lot of really nice words to say, and like just was really encouraging. And he asked me some questions about like what I was doing, and yeah, he lived up to
That's exciting. That's so exciting. Yeah. I never knew you met him. Like,
Yeah.
I would have been more prepared for that story had I known that, but holy cow.
It's old like lore now, because that would have been like 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I've probably said this a few times now, but I don't consider myself like a fate guy necessarily. But that was one of those like the odds of that felt like cosmically like so small. Based on how that morning went, I wasn't supposed to be on that trip. Like, I can't tell you that weird sort of like I left the camera store and then like for whatever reason went back. All of that was like a really weird, like a sort of a weird cosmic feeling of like, oh man. I have definitely like fallen back on that feeling when this job or like doing this full time or whatever like feels kind of like annoying or hard. Like I have this kind of feeling of like, you know what, like if that was sort of a nudge that I should be doing this, then I kind of like want to stick it through a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is that kind of part of why you started doing vlogs too? Because I remember in your earlier days when I first met you, I think the first time I talked to you was about 2001. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a while ago now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when you offloaded this one camera here.
Yeah. No, that would have been 2021.
21, sorry.
Yeah, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
I was 11.
Yeah, sorry. 2021, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you had a few vlogs that you had done. You were talking about gear and you were talking about photography, and one of them that I remember in particular is when you were testing out N-Log.
Yeah.
And you were kind of going into detail and you were talking about like how different is it? Like what can I expect to see from it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With Peter McKinnon being a vlogger like he is, did that kind of inspire you a little bit to kind of go that route?
Yeah, I think I have to imagine as like a fan as well, you felt a pull to like make what he was making, or at least like you're like, oh, that looks fun and he makes it look cool. And so yeah, he definitely like inspired the want to make YouTube videos. And I think like that sort of like gear review format, I really like my initial sort of career trajectory is I wanted to be a teacher. Like that was what I spent the first 23 years of my life thinking I was going to be. And so there are like teaching elements in like that YouTube format that I really like. And I don't know. I felt, I mean, like the videos that are still up have way more views than I ever would have expected them to get. Like, I think I'm not, the few moments I'll allow myself to have like a small ego is to say like, I think I was okay at it. Like for someone who is like still kind of figuring it out and like really inexperienced at like talking to a camera, which is like its own sort of weird feeling.
Yeah.
I look back on those videos and the reason I haven't like deleted them is I'm like, you know, I'm kind of proud of these. Like they're awkward and they're amateur and they like are a bit clunky, but they're a reminder of like yeah, I tried something and it kind of worked.
Yeah. Well, go back and look at Peter's videos from
Oh, totally.
2008. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
I know, like, I was watching one of them probably a week ago, and he was talking about natural window light, right?
Yeah.
And he's in his home bedroom,
Yeah.
basically, studio, and he's just got a window open, and that's his light. He doesn't have any
Yeah.
studio lights. He didn't have anything else. He was just using that, just
Yeah.
the window. He would roll the blinds up, and that would be his light for his YouTube video.
Yeah.
And look where he is now, right?
Yeah.
And
There's a full circle to his journey that I also kind of feel like I've been on a smaller version of, which is like, I feel like there was an era of his videos where it was very like gear centric, like get more gear, he went through that phase of like getting a red Raptor Komodo, you know, like, and he had like the gear cage in his old office full of all this gear. And then you almost like watched him then like try to get rid of it all. Like he talked about feeling a bit suffocated by it. And I think on a much smaller scale, like I have like built this business which makes videos and does all this work, and acquired all this stuff. And I think maybe the last like year or two has been the exercise of like simplifying it all. Like I definitely fell down the rabbit hole of like get more gear, get bigger cameras, like more lenses. And that was like a useful exercise to see, what worked and what didn't. But lately I'm like, I try to show up to shoots with like one camera, one lens, like really simple kits. And that's what I'm most drawn to right now.
oh man, that'd be nice. I need to learn that, because I swear I pack 3 cases of stuff and a big bag of lighting and extra light stands. And yeah,
Evan and I play this game of when we're going to a shoot, we try to guess what percentage of the gear in the truck we will use, relative, and then afterwards we try to like evaluate.
Yeah.
I would say like we normally use 30% of the gear we bring, maybe, and some of it is like you need to have solutions ready for problems, like you might need an extra light or two, or you might need a different modifier or something like that for your lights. So some of it is like a natural, like a carpenter arrives to build a house with many tools and maybe only needs a few. Like some of it is like being ready for things. But yeah, simplicity is like a thing I've been thinking a lot about.
have you ever been in the situation where you're like, okay, we're gonna get these awesome shots, we're gonna have a gimbal, we're gonna have the drone, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do all these things, and then you find yourself just like hand holding the shot and find out it's good enough?
Yeah. Find out it's good enough, but also like, it's almost like you compromise your I find one of the great battles of this job, and I'm sure like you feel it, I know Evan and I talk about it endlessly, is like you're compromising the amount of time and energy it takes to do things against your client and their sort of patience with you, to like tear down one of these cameras and set it up on a gimbal and balance it. That can take like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And, like you're trying to be precious about their time and the shoot time you have. Maybe the light's only good. And so often too, it's like, we'll bring all this stuff ready to, set up a set that's beautiful like this one. And then we'll get there and the client will be like, oh, sorry, like, I know I said I had till 4, but I only have till like 2:45. And you're like, oh no, like,
yeah.
And so where we would like to set up like, a key light and like a hair light and have these nice little accents, we're like, okay, one light, chair, plunk, like,
yeah,
and just make it work.
And
It's a sad feeling to like compromise your creativity against just like trying to make sure your client feels like, we value their time.
Yeah. And it's just disappointing to not be able to deliver that quality that you would want. Like even the amount of time that it would take to set up a nice light with a modifier and everything, and you're rushed, so you just set up a square LED light panel instead.
Yeah.
And then you're disappointed by how it looks, right?
Totally, yeah.
And
I think the advice I give to like, that I would give to myself even still, but like is to anyone kind of approaching those larger shoots is the more you can manage those expectations on the front end, like let the client know what's going to happen when you get there. That's something I've been trying to be a lot better about, is like in my pre-production briefs or like treatments and scopes that I send to clients. it'll say like, hey, when we arrive, we're gonna need an hour and a half, and that way they know, like, because we used to just kind of show up and they'd be like, where do you want me? And we'd be like, oh no, like, we don't need you for, you know, a little while. And so they'd be kind of hovering, and we'd be trying to make like small talk while they're, you know, like you're trying to like plan your light and like think about depth and like where it's going while also trying to like maintain a nice conversation. It's a lot.
Yeah. So like, we're talking a lot about video, but you actually got started as a photographer, right? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
How long have you been into photography for?
Oh man, depending where you started. Like, I come from a family of photographers. My dad always had he had this Pentax film camera, like an SLR, growing up, that I think like very early on taught me the value of like photos. And then in grade 12, my physics teacher, Mr. Wooten, he started like a photography club at my high school in Terrace. And there was nothing, like, it's a very small town. My grad class was like 50 kids. It's very small. So that kind of extracurricular was very rare. And my dad was like, you got to join that. So I got to take his really old Pentax SLR like film camera into this photography class, and like we had like assignments where we would learn about like leading lines and like depth of field, and we had to like make photos that used those principles. So that, I would say, like really planted the seed. And then throughout university, like I had, you know, a casual relationship with photography. Like I had like I would bring to like parties and stuff like that. Like it was like I don't know, it was Fuji, but it was just like a little point and shoot. So that, I think, like kind of maybe was the seed of like storytelling, like wanting to make sure we had photos of all of our fun things we were doing. And my friend Kevin started a YouTube channel in that era, like kind of early post high school. And him and Ian would be in the videos, and I would film a lot of them. So that was like a good creative exercise of editing. And then the next kind of like really impressionable character in my life was Graham. He was my boss when I worked at Kermode Tourism in Terrace. I was a summer student there. And Graham was just like the coolest boss you could have. He was like such a sick dude. And he was really into photography. And where I should have been saving for university, he kind of like put the idea in my head of like getting a camera. And so my mom was not happy with that. But I bought a Nikon D3100. And that would have been 2010, maybe 2009.
Oh yeah.
So that I was 19 and had like a nice DSLR, like that thing. And that, I used that for years. Like I brought that to university. That was like very much a thing that was always on me. I moved to the Yukon after I graduated. I brought it there, like took a lot of photos up there. And then, yeah, like I think kind of had this weird on again, off again relationship with it after that. And it wasn't until 2018, like sort of that pre-Peter McKinnon thing, that there was a moment in there at some point that I really decided I wanted to get back into it. And yeah, that's the seeds of it, I guess.
Oh yeah. Were you living in Prince George by then when you really got heavily into it?
Yeah. So I mean, the journey is a bit windy, but I had graduated from university in 2016 with a biochemistry degree.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Super, yeah, English and biochemistry, and wanted to be a teacher at the time. Yeah. And then what happened next? Started working as a recruiter for the university. And I think it was that job because when you're a recruiter at the university, you sort of overlap between like admissions and marketing. So I spent a lot of time like looking at photos of Prince George because we were recruiting students here and recruiting students to UNBC. And I just like thought a lot about the photos we were using. And I think I felt kind of sad that like we didn't have more better photos of PG and like this area to like show off the version of it that I saw. And I think like Chuck Chin was kind of the only person I saw who was like making cool photos. Like I don't think I saw anything else that was like, you know, the cut banks or you know, the park and the river around Clayton Tenay. Like none of that was really being captured in a way that I thought was really meaningful other than Chuck's stuff. And so I think at some point I was like, I want to do that. I think that was kind of the seed of that.
Yeah, because taking photos is really easy, and a lot of people do it. They grab their camera, they point it somewhere, and they shoot that shot.
Yeah.
But they don't think about, you know, let's add some leading lines into it. Let's add some foreground interest. Let's get down low so you can see.
Totally, yeah. Don't shoot at eye level.
Yeah. So having like that photographer eye and mindset really will bring those photos up.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Like, what are some of kind of your favorite things, I guess, about photography? Like when we're talking about composition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I know for myself, one of the things I like doing is having foreground interest in it.
Yeah.
And I'll almost always do that.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. I think that having like a foreground element, if it's just like an out of focus like branch or leaf or, you know, kind of crawling in, something like the journey of my like creative taste has like also changed my photography a lot. It's a funny exercise to go back in time and like look at, you know, those photos from 2019. Like there is a lot of almost like forced foreground elements where I'm like, oh god, what? Like very clearly I like held a tree branch in front of the lens and was like, yeah, this is it, you know, like in a place where there very clearly wouldn't be a tree or something. Like they're kind of hard to look at.
Oh yeah.
Lately I really think a lot about like a balanced composition, you know, like that's one of those really floofy photography terms that you can't necessarily tell someone what you're seeing, but you can tell someone when it's like, I think even not a photographer can tell when a composition isn't balanced. They just don't know that's what they're noticing.
Yeah.
And so I really love, I don't know if you've watched any of his stuff, but Thomas Heaton.
No.
He's just a really like slow paced, sort of like not miserable, but he's like a bit of a cranky Scotsman. He's a very, very like prestigious photographer, but he makes these beautiful videos of traveling like the Scottish fjords and Ireland and like different parts of England. And he's like so painful about how he assembles compositions. Like he does not shoot without a tripod. He does not do handheld. And it's like he'll spend a whole day finding like one spot, and then he'll spend like an hour in the spot just like, you know, like just really trying to get exactly in it. And then there's been vlogs he's made where like it just didn't work, and that whole day's a write-off. And he's like, yeah, he doesn't try to force it. And when you look at his photos, you can't help but see it though. Like the like painful thought he puts into like, okay, like if there's like a dock coming in from this side onto the lake and there's like a mountain here, he'll talk a lot about how he like wishes there was some like rocks on the beach here, but there isn't. And he's like, it's a bad photo because there's no rocks on the beach. Oh, because like there's an interest here, there's an interest here, but too much like dead space here. And it's when I look back at my old photos, especially, I'm like, I wasn't thinking about balanced composition at all. But you can see when there was one, like where I maybe some innate creative, like that, you know, like how that sort of unthought thing can kind of drive you to take a photo. When it hits, I'm like, that's it, there it is. But yeah, that's probably the main thing I think about these days.
Yeah, that's a good point, because really, like, if you're looking for a balanced photo, snapping that shot's not going to work. And you could spend an hour looking for something to balance it out, right?
Yeah, and I have to imagine you've had the feeling of like, you arrive to a scene that feels like it should be beautiful. You know, like I have so many memories of like being in Jasper and like getting to like the mountain and the lake, and then I kind of hold my camera up and I'm like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll force it. Like I'll be like, oh yeah, like I'll, you know, try to go find like a foreground element, or I'll kind of put the camera on the ground and try to get something out of that. But from watching Thomas Heaton and thinking so much about balanced compositions, sometimes I'm just like at peace with the idea of like, this is nice to look at, but it's like not a great photo.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. And it is nice to kind of just get out and use your eyes for once.
Yeah, totally.
People like you and me probably have the camera with us all the time, and we're looking for shots, and we don't really spend enough time just kind of looking at what we're seeing. You know?
Yeah, or there's that, and then sometimes I'm almost like frustrated when if I am looking for a photo and I can't find it, I almost like then can't enjoy that it is just like a nice scene.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I didn't get the photo or whatever. And I think like the last year or two of my life has been as a result of burnout, which like it's weird to say there was like a good thing that has come from burnout, but like I'm just like, if the photo doesn't kind of like show itself to me, or like it doesn't seem like there's a good photo, I'm like, meh. Camera goes back to the backpack.
Yeah.
Brittany and I just can like enjoy the view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to Jasper with a friend. You've probably been to Moline Lake.
Oh yeah.
Lake.
It's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. We got to this spot and there were all these canoes kind of laid upside down.
Oh, cool.
And they were all different colors. So there was a red one, a green one, a yellow one.
Yeah, nice.
Right? And they were all in this line. But all these people were kind of off taking pictures of this boardwalk that was kind of going out to this island.
Okay.
And I remember looking at those canoes going, oh, I'm going to get a shot of this. But I want to know what those people are doing, right?
Yeah.
So I got up and I walked, down there. And they were all kind of like one at a time taking a picture, and then the next person. And I'm like, what is this? So I got in line with them, right? And then when it came up to my turn, I go take a picture, and I'm like, well, this is kind of neat, but it's a little bit crooked, and the island's like way bigger on this side. And, forget it, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm going back to the canoes, the bright, colorful canoes. And I did take a picture of that island, right? And those, railings heading up to it. But the picture I loved were those canoes laid out on the beach, and some tree branches that were kind of hanging down, sort of framing the shot like I was speaking through them. And like I just kind of got distracted by those other people and wanting to know what they were doing, that I almost missed out on the shot that was better. Right?
That's a funny, like that's almost less about photography and like sometimes about like human nature. Like you were like, oh, I bet they know something I don't, like that.
Yeah.
Am I missing out on something? And then you go over there and you're like, what the heck are these people looking at?
Yeah.
Like I got this better photo. Like
yeah.
The one of the great lessons that this whole thing, like being a business owner and like photography and videography, that has taught me is like just being confident, I think, sometimes, and like what I think is the best shot relative to like that group of people. Like there's a version of me, probably still, honestly, but like that would definitely succumb to that and be like, oh, I gotta go give up on the shot that I think is good, and certainly those people know better. But I think like the further I've got into this, the more trust I've had that like, no, your canoe shot was probably better than the shot they had. Or like to you, at least, to your taste.
For sure, to my taste, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about the photos I take is I've got a couple of them up at home, one that I really like from Cottonwood Island Park.
Yeah.
And then of course, like I've got a picture of the Coliseum that I took, in Rome. So you've got to put that up.
Yeah, of course.
And, but yeah, photography should be about your own taste, right? Not kind of what somebody else is going to like or...
Yeah, I think that's right. A really valuable recent exercise for me was just getting our wedding photos done. Like,
oh, I'll bet.
Yeah, Britt and I got married in January, and like, you really are just like full beans trust into what they're doing. Yeah. And there were absolutely moments that were happening, and I was like, what is happening? Like, the version of the scene that I thought we were shooting, I was like, these guys are missing it. Like, but I'm hopefully self-aware enough to like, I'm like, we hired these guys to do their job. I really weirdly like was not attached to the idea of my wedding photos. Like my expectations were, I just hoped there was like a few that we could print and hang. So in my head, I was like, I'm not going to override whatever there is happening. But the funny thing was like getting the photos and being like, oh no, they absolutely knew what they were doing. Like the moments where I was the most confused, it was just because I wasn't where they were standing, and they've photographed Jasper a million times. So they like clearly knew the right place to go at the right scene to get like the view. It was the same like you're talking about Pyramid Lake. And the lake was frozen over, and we just like lucked out. The sun came out. It was the most beautiful light we got for this like hour we had at Pyramid Lake to do photos. And so rather than go onto that boardwalk with the like leading lines of the rails and the mountain and the island in the background, they kind of pulled us off to the side to stand on the frozen lake. And I remember in my head being like, I don't think this is gonna look very good. Like I really didn't have a sense of like what they were seeing. But the way they had framed it is like they knew that there was a clearing in the trees of the island where you could see the peak of the mountain, which you can't see from that boardwalk because the trees of the island are too tall. And it was like very clear that they just knew that. That was like a reflex they had to like go out to the angle to see the whole mountain. Oh, yeah. Anyways, it was a great exercise of like trusting another vision and yeah, being happily wrong about what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty exciting. Yeah, it's being there is one of those things that I'm not usually in front of the camera, so I never kind of see those things either.
Yeah, same.
And I'm putting myself in front of the camera more and more every day. Like
yeah.
Now. Did you get a wedding video done for your?
So no, we didn't do a wedding video. I, funnily, like very relevant to what you just said, we like vlogged our wedding. For us, like not going to post it anywhere.
Oh yeah.
But we like recorded the whole thing, and I've like edited into because sorry, an important piece of context is Britt and I eloped. It was just the two of us. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anyone else at our wedding, and some of our family wasn't totally cool with that. And so yeah, we vlogged the whole wedding, and then I chopped it up into like a 15-20 minute like vlog of the weekend that we like could send to our family who weren't there. And that was like fun. Like that was a really valuable exercise of like filming yourself and storytelling and like the whole gambit of like how hard it is, how annoying it is, you know, like all these moments of being like, I should set up a shot and like, you know, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. I don't really think there's a point to that story, but yeah, we vlogged our wedding. We didn't get a wedding video.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because being a videographer as well, I thought maybe you would be kind of on the side of, well, I'm going to get photos of my wedding. I'm definitely going to get a video of my wedding as well. But
yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't know if this is a hot take. As someone who's made them, I don't see a ton of value in wedding videos for me personally. Like I think maybe because I have too much insight on the like ingredients, like the sauce that goes into them, that it's hard for me to enjoy them when I know what was actually happening in that. Like, cause you like flip it into like 60, 120 frames. Okay, go walk, you know, okay, yeah. Give her a spin. And it's like all creamy slow-mo, you know. And for those that don't know what that is, that looks magical because people are like, whoa, it looks like a movie. Oh my God.
Yeah.
But I think, again, as a person who would be paying someone to make that, I'm like, I don't need that.
Oh yeah. I actually have a prediction about video.
Okay.
And I think events like weddings are going to get more and more video oriented.
Totally. I agree with that.
Yeah. And the reason I think that is because if you look at like AI, right? AI right now, you can take an old photo of like your grandfather or great grandfather who you've never met, throw it into AI, and then he moves and he smiles and he does stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel that people are going to want to do that now right off the bat. Because imagine being able to go, you know, to when you were 3 years old or when you learned to walk.
Yeah.
And have a 4K video of that happening, right?
I could argue that both ways. There's a funny thing happening right now, which is like the return of film photography, and I don't know what the cool kids are calling it, the Gen Zs, but the like they make their photos look crappy, like intentionally. Like they're grainy as hell. They, you know, if you've shot any weddings recently or whatever, but like the most brides, when you ask for like inspo, it's like they want a disposable flash right here, blow their skin out, like washed out colors, grain and noise, and shutter drags, like setting your shutter speed really low and doing that is like they love it. That's like very in vogue right now. I shot one wedding last year and it was great, but the bride definitely had like of the 40 photos she sent me in the inspiration Pinterest, 30 of them were like purposely bad, like that sort of like crummy. And I think some of it is like in revolt to Instagram culture, like the my life is so perfect, these photos are so beautiful and perfect. I think that sort of like dirty, messy look is like making a weird resurgence. And it seems to be more true in the sub 25-year-olds right now. I don't know what to make of that. So to your point of like, do they want a 4K 60 frames a second video of them walking for the first time? Or are we, or like our kids, gonna be trying to use like a Super 8? Because that's like, that has that retro old school look to it. I have no idea.
My nephew actually asked for, I think maybe it was Pentax, maybe?
Yeah,
Are they
totally.
still making those Instamatic cameras?
Yeah, with the little like the film things that you like wave.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So he asked for one of those, and this might have been a couple years ago, but maybe 13 years old, 12 years old, type of age. And yeah, for like a young person to be looking at that right now, is it just for convenience, or is that kind of like the look that they're going for?
I don't know. There's a whole like, God, we're gonna drift pretty far from photos on this one, but like there is something to this like weird world we live in now, which is like we don't own anything. We just like pay a monthly fee to like have access to Spotify or Adobe or whatever, like. And I sound very much like old man yelling at cloud right now, but I'm like, it was great that I could like go buy a DVD of Hot Rod and own the DVD of Hot Rod. And I didn't have to be like, which service is it on right now?
Yeah.
And I think, the generation that's coming up below me that I'm watching is like, there's a bit of a revolt to the like monthly subscription and a bit more, I think, desire to like own the physical thing. And I think that is the Instax camera, and that is like printing your photos and getting a bit away from the super digital, like you can have a Google Drive with like all of your iPhone photos, but like the ones you hang up on your fridge are the most meaningful. And so I don't know.
And they get done right away.
They
don't sit on your memory card or sit on a hard drive at home somewhere. And
I think about that all the time. I'm like, we have thousands of photos on our phone that almost like in the sort of like, I don't know how you would equate value to them, but like the sentimental value of those photos, nothing. Like I see them once in a while when like Facebook or Google's like, hey, do you remember this photo you took 3 years ago? I'm like, oh, it's Brittany eating a taco in Canmore. And it should be a really valuable thing, but it just sits on my phone and I don't think about it, versus like photos you print and make books of. Like there is something about when you make the thing physical and you can like touch and own it. Yeah
Cool. Okay, well, man, it's 11:20 already.
I was worried we wouldn't kill an hour.
I want to talk more about video with you.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about your business.
Sure.
As like video production, whether you do storyboarding and scripting and planning, like as much as you want to talk about. I'd love to hear your kind of role, because you came in here and the first thing you were like, wow, like look at this. This is really neat.
You've done a great job, honestly.
So this is different from what you do then.
Totally. Yeah. Right? Like important caveat, every job's different. I think to go super nuts and bolts is to say like, I used to try to find like a one solution for every client. There just isn't. And so it depends on the job. I lately have been kind of sorting things into like two buckets. There is sort of a, we finished this video in the fall for the District of Mackenzie, which was like kind of a resident attraction campaign. And that was very like, there was a voiceover and a script and like every scene kind of had its own shot list. And we had a really strong sense of like what the video would be in the pre-production phase. And so, we do use like mill and out to storyboard those ones. And, the client has their own sort of input for revisions. Once revisions are done and locked, we say, okay, you have no more input in this. Like, we got it from here kind of thing. So that's like one version. It's kind of the narrative video that we take on. And then the other, I would say, like more common intake is like, it's kind of the testimonial or interview with B-roll is kind of the other bucket that things fit in. And you can definitely storyboard those. Like you can absolutely think a bit about shots and what you think would match well. But a lot of those ones that we get invited into are quite like, we call them run and gun, which is like we show up, they kind of show us what they have, and we're like, all right, let's see what we can make with this. And so those are a bit more, fly by the seat of your pants. I think if I could like elevate one thing I've been thinking about in that second category is thinking more about sequences and less about shots. So imagining like not just like, okay, I'm like, if we were making a video about making this podcast, I think the inherent thing would be like, okay, we'll get Jeff like turning on a light and like turning on the lamp. Yeah. But thinking a bit more about like how, okay, Jeff turning on, like the setup is actually going to be a sequence. And so what would be a really compelling way to like get those shots in what order? And do you want in-camera transitions? So then, okay, we know we're going to like film your hand going up to the switch, and then we're going to, turn out of it. And then the next shot, we're going to come into the right, and your hand's going to like hit the next switch. Oh, yeah. And just trying to think more about the like, less about what a good shot is and more about like what a sequence can be for that story.
Do you do a lot of videos like that with like in-camera transitions?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is probably like a new thing I'm trying to like think more about rather than just like, we'll figure it out when we get there. But yeah, we definitely do in-camera transitions, and it's like, I would say probably it's the easiest way to add some thought to your video that I think clients like really notice.
Yeah. Well, that's really neat because like that type of thing does take a lot of thought to plan out.
Yeah.
Not only plan it out, but then execute it and then hope that it stitches together properly. Because if you go the wrong direction for the second shot and you don't double check it.
100%.
Yeah.
I made a boxing commercial for Inner City last year, and that was kind of a fun. I just like, they kind of were, it was, pro bono work, just wanted to like help them out. And I know Kenny and Jag. And it was very just like, kind of showed up with my camera. And that was kind of the thing I wanted to practice with that video. Like, kind of the thing they got was like, hopefully a cool video. And the thing I got was like some time to just like practice cool transitions. Oh. And you're right. Like, there were definitely shots where I would like get like Kenny doing these like sweet, and then I would like whip to the right. And then the shot that I like wanted to go into after like comes down from the top, and it just made no sense. Oh yeah. And I was like, damn it.
Yeah. Those shots are super cool. And I think early on when I was doing videos, I was trying to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was kind of a little too much.
Yeah.
But I think today it makes way more sense, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because the younger group of guys that I see, they're on their skateboards or out at the skate park and they're doing cool kickflips and stuff like that. That's when you want to execute that kind of stuff.
It's all about matching that, like the energy of your shots should match the energy of like the project. Like it would be if I'm trying to think of an example, like if John Brink is doing like a state of the forestry industry, and you were like getting some interview with him and then some like, shots of him out in the Brink lumber yard. I don't know if that's the time to do like some crazy whip pans of, it just would feel like it doesn't quite match. Yeah. I think like that's a good example of like, yeah, you want it to feel a bit documentary, a bit handheld. And I think that's where it comes down to like your creative taste, like matching your shots to the energy of the subject matter versus like if we were doing a commercial for like Wall of Fame or something like that, or something that's like, I think like has a bit more driving and energy to it, then you're like
yeah, right, the knife comes up, cut something.
Totally. Exactly.
Are you a Daniel Schiffer fan?
Of course. Okay. Of course.
Yeah, he's another one. He's probably like up there in like number 2, number 3.
Sure. He's like such a funny because I think he's a funny, how quickly Peter McKinnon impacted the whole video creative scene. I remember seeing the video where they met, like Daniel admitted that he was like the reason he started YouTube was because of Peter McKinnon.
Crazy.
And I think he's now like surpassed him in subscribers and like overall reach. Like Daniel Schiffer is he's one of the best like product photographers on the planet, or videographers.
He's too busy to post stuff now.
Yeah.
Right. Like, yeah, I used to watch all his early stuff when he's got like a cucumber on the table and he's like chop chop chop.
Yeah,
chop,
the probe lens.
Yeah, the probe lens, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally.
But the great thing about those guys are they're introducing you to different concepts and then different types of gear, right?
Yeah.
Like, who would have ever seen a probe lens? I still wouldn't have seen one had I not seen, his videos, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's all it's a double-edged sword. Like you you learn about a lot of stuff you want but maybe don't need, and then you get that sort of like, I need that to do this thing. But yeah, it's so nice. Like, I think about what videography would have been 20 years ago. It was such just like obscure craft, and like there was no product videos of like when Nikon released like a new lens or something like that. There was no. There was like maybe like the odd web page that like did an analysis of like corner to corner sharpness or whatever. But in terms of like watching a video of someone like, going through all the features and like taking it out on a couple shoots, that just like didn't exist back then.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of gear, you are a Sony shooter, but you were originally a Nikon shooter.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that, part of the reason I talked to you and you're here today, is because I bought my first good camera off you.
Yeah.
And it's actually that one right there.
Yeah, good to see it again.
Yeah, first, pretty much the first and only used piece of gear that I ever bought, but I just couldn't put the money into like buying a new one.
Yeah, totally.
But you shot with this Nikon for how long before I ended up with it?
You entered the timeline is a bit funny in that like I didn't know I was going to switch to Sony until I switched to Sony. Like it kind of happened quicker than I expected it to. So I bought my Nikon Z6 in 2020 during the pandemic, and then they released the Z6 II I think the following year, or maybe no, sorry, timeline's off. Z6 I in 2019. The Z6 II came out at the end of 2020, and it was right at the end of 2020, early 2021 that I started getting into video work. And I would say like the thing that kind of happened for me was the Nikon ecosystem was not keeping up with what I needed it to do as a solo shooter. There were just small headaches that were consistently happening that from what I had heard, were not as common in Sony cameras. The main two being, as we've had with Janet having to get up and reset the camera, is a 30-minute record time for video. Yeah. As a solo shooter, if I'm doing an interview or something like that, I didn't have a Janet to help. And the other thing was and I know that these have gotten so much better since I've gotten out, but the autofocus in 2020 was incredibly unreliable, to the point where it would just, without prompt, it would just like, if I did this, it might just grab my hand and then suddenly here is in focus. Oh. And then because I'm doing the interview, I can't see the back of the camera. I would get home and be like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, there might be a moment on this one where it thinks your eyes are in the tree behind you. So, and I do notice that happens sometimes. The eye focuses right on your eye, and then it jumps to like a different spot in the bushes or in the background, and it's like, why has it done that?
That camera is also kind of the last camera that I felt like Nikon was behind the curve. Like the Z6 III, the Z8, the Z9, like everything that came out after, I actually do believe is like on par with the Sony cameras. It felt like I was like that camera, and I was like the last generation where they weren't like totally lockstep, I think, with like Canon and Sony. And so what happened, like specifically, was I don't know if you know the creator Dunna did it, or Dunna.
No.
He's in Edmonton. Great creator to follow, honestly. He's up there with like Peter McKinnon and Daniel Schiffer for me in terms of just like really good videography inspirations. He lived in Edmonton, and he posted that he was selling his A7S III, and this was during the pandemic when they were like super rare, super hard to find, and it was like pretty affordable, like relative to like what new ones were. And so in my head, I faced enough pain of like losing shots and autofocus problems with that camera, that I was like, you know what? Like, I think this is when I have to like make this hop. And so I bought Donna's camera. My friend Scott went over to his house, bought it in Edmonton, shipped it to me, and that kind of marked the slow detransition from Nikon to Sony.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you bought his camera. I
Yeah.
bought your camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have that camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, that's so cool. Yeah, I bought this one because I remember, I look back at our messages. It was October of 2021.
Yeah.
And and I said to you, I said, hey, I've been watching your photos. I've been looking at it. You're using a Sony now.
Yeah.
You know, and I said, what prompted that? And then came the
Probably
big,
said
long
the exact
story.
same thing I just said. Yeah.
And that was, I actually appreciated that you didn't just go like, oh, I didn't, I was having autofocus issues and that. You wrote like a long message back to me. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
and I was like, holy cow, like that's great, And then I told you, I said, I do real estate work and I need 4K 60.
Yeah.
And if the Nikon did that, I'd be interested in it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately it doesn't. And then you went, but it does.
Yeah.
And then you came to where I was working downtown.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You brought the camera and you're like, try it out for a little while.
Yeah.
And here, you can throw this 24 to 70
Yeah.
amazing lens on it. And I was like protecting that with my life. I'm like, I better not drop this.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Because like there's no way I could afford this right now if I
Yeah.
broke it. And after using it for that week, I'm like, I'm going to make it work. Because
What were you using? What was your camera during that time?
it was the Z50.
Oh, that's the Z50.
That's this one right here. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it can do 1080 at 60, but it can't do 4K at 60. And I
Yeah.
wanted that 4K
Yeah.
in so I could slow it down for the real estate videos.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. 4K 60 is kind of the like. I mean, most modern cameras, all of them have it now. But at the time, that was the rare thing because the Z6-1 did a crop. You could do 4K 60, but it punched into APS-C crop.
Yeah.
Which was annoying because your 17 millimeter lens becomes a 22 millimeter lens or 23.
Right.
Which is annoying. Yeah.
So it's nice being able to put a full frame
Yeah.
10 millimeter on there and
And
actually
get-
get like
get the
really
wide.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a funny journey, and like at the time I had like a Nikon sponsorship, like the switch was like really painful, like because I had a really good relationship with the Nikon Canada people, and they were like, I really believe that if I had stayed with it, like I think I probably could have had a very different relationship with content, and like I think I was developing a really cool relationship with them, but it wasn't paying my bills. Like it wasn't a paid relationship. It was like they sent me the odd thing from time to time and I got to make content about it, and I needed a tool that could like do the job, and that's where the rubber met the road for me, I guess.
How did you establish that relationship?
I went on LinkedIn. I found I spent a lot of time trying to find their marketing people for Nikon Canada. I found one. I sent an email to her that was like kind of a blind pitch deck, just being like, hey, I live in this weird place in Canada that I don't think many people are making photos and videos of. I use only Nikon stuff. I love Nikon. I have this old photo of me with my Nikon D30-100 from like 2010 or whatever. So I was like, I've been using Nikon for a long time. And and they replied and they're like, yeah, we're kind of just talking about starting this like sponsorship program called Nikon Creators, and we'd love to have you. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah, it was really cool. I mean, they sent me a Nikon Z50, like they sent me a camera, and I got to use that. I had like deliverables, had to make content about it and stuff like that. And then they sent me the lens, the 24 to 70, and that I had to make a lot of content about that. But it was cool. It's one of those like Jack Kerouacian, like what is down the road I didn't go kind of things of like, when I explained to Kendall that I had switched to the contact I had in marketing, that I had switched to Sony, I was really sad. Like I kind of was like, is there any way we can keep? And she was like, obviously, we can't. Like you're using a competitor product. And I was like, Fair. The environment's different now. Like most YouTubers now use like multiple camera systems. Like there are very few. I think Peter McKinnon is like one of the very few that's like locked in with Canon. But you know, like Mark Bone, Kofi Yaboa, like they all swap out depending what gear is kind of in vogue. So yeah, it's a bit different now. But yeah, it's a weird footer in my story of like I was sponsored by Nikon for a little bit.
Yeah. I've actually got a subscription to Mark Bowen's documentary.
Oh, AOD or cool.
Yeah. Purchased that about 2 years ago, and great content always coming up.
Yeah, Evan's a part of it too. I think if you're looking for just like a hub of like really good videography peers, like Evan talks a lot about how it's just like a good place to get inspiration, and he's had a few like opportunities. Like he posts quite a bit in the Facebook group and stuff like that, and I think he's had people who have like come into the north that he's gotten to shoot with for a day or two or whatever. Different people. Yeah, it's been cool to watch.
Yeah. Every Wednesday they've got their Zoom call you jump on.
Yeah.
Or once a month, I guess. Every Wednesday, once a month, you jump on their Zoom call and meet with all these different people that are. So Evan, maybe him and I have been on the same call.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have ever met, but yeah, that'd be, you guys probably do know of each other through it.
Yeah, we should connect sometime.
Yeah, I'll connect you guys after this for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking more about tech and gear, you've been happy with Sony. You've been enjoying it, I guess. It's.
Yeah, I have no. There's no problems. Like it's a funny relationship with gear when you. I struggle with so many other parts of the gear ecosystem. Like lighting can be annoying. Sometimes my computer isn't powerful. Like I have issues and quandaries with like so many other things. My Sony cameras are perfect. Like I have no. They're priced well. They work so like. They get out of my way is maybe the best way. Like I can trust them. I know the image is always going to be good. The autofocus is like genuinely feels like magic sometimes. Yeah, the image quality is unbelievable. I'm completely happy, which is like hashtag not sponsored. Like, but yeah, it's great. I have the A7S III, the A7 IV, and the FX3 now, so I'm pretty bought into the ecosystem.
The FX3.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's a nice one.
Yeah, I mean it is the same sensor as the A7S III actually. Well, not a lot of people know that. So they just rehoused it in a bit more of like a boxy cinema camera, and it has like a few other bits and bobs. But if you use A cam, B cam, like FX3, A7S III, it's the same. It's the exact same image.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, not trying to convince you to get out a Nikon, but A7S IIIs are very discounted right now. But it is the same sensor.
I think it'd be far too late for me to get out a Nikon now.
Once you're in, you're in. It's
right?
so The switch was like painful emotionally to like give up on that partnership, but also like you take a loss on a lot of your gear.
I had someone show me this picture, and they're like, I've got this 24 to 70 or no 70 to 200 f2.8 like lens like this long. But it was Canon, and they're like, are you interested? And I'm like, man, like, okay, yeah, but now I'm gonna buy a Canon camera just to use it, and I'm thinking about it. And I'm like, how much do you want for it? Right? I had to make it worth it.
Yeah.
And then a buddy of mine is like, you can buy these adapters.
The adapters, yeah.
Yeah. So now I can snap this adapter onto my full frame camera, and it gives me full autofocus control. The iFocus all works, and I can stick that Canon lens on my Nikon.
It's pretty unbelievable.
I was so happy when I saw that, when I found that out.
Cool. That's awesome.
And there were a couple different models. There was one adapter that was like $50, but it was all manual control.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I'll just cheap out and I'll just get the $50 one, right?
Yeah.
Ended up buying the $500 one that does everything.
Cool. So you can use your like Canon EF mount in.
It's an EF mount.
Yeah.
EF to
Z.
To the Z mount. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, I had no idea that existed.
Yeah, and it's wild. So I still haven't gone out with it anywhere. I've done two event shoots where I just shot people up on the stage like at a distance. Was totally happy with that. But
cool.
Can't wait to get out in the.
Have you gotten into gimbal work at all? Like, do you use that at all? Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. That's kind of a fun piece of it. I like when the job calls for it and the shots make sense, like it's a really fun movement dimension to add to shots.
Actually, when you brought me this camera,
Yeah.
I had my gimbal with me and I wanted to know if it would balance.
Right, to balance. I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
And I remember you telling me like, oh, it's, you know,
It's gonna be close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we slapped it on there and it balanced, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. Are you still using the same gimbal?
Same one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. I've been lucky. I haven't had to upgrade that. It's a Ronin SC2, I think.
Oh, okay. That was it. Yeah. I had mine up on the like bed of my truck, and I knocked it off 2 years ago. So I did have to upgrade at some point, but I got the RS3, which has power locks on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Changed my life. Oh. It's such a funny, like, it is the smallest thing to like to be like blown away by, but you know how like you have to like put it down and you have to be like to like you just put a button and it goes and locks into place.
Yeah.
Dream. Absolute dream.
There's sometimes that I get a little too excited about features like that too.
Yeah. Small things mean a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny story about that gimbal. It's been giving me no grief, right? It's been working good for 3 years. I took it out to a real estate shoot, and it was a vacant house, right? So nobody's been in it for probably 2 months. And the realtor turned on the fireplace because we wanted to get that good shot. So I'm standing there and I'm balancing it, and I turned it on, and the display turned on briefly, went solid white, and then turned off. And then I'm like, I smell smoke.
Oh.
Yeah. And luckily, it was just because the fireplace got turned on.
I was like,
and it was burning off the dust. And the gimbal just turned back on its own.
Oh, that's so funny.
It was some weird glitch. But man, that was a scary feeling, like that flash, that smell, seeing it, right? Like it was just fear like in my eyes, because those aren't cheap. And then you're on a job, and what am I going to do now? Like walk into
use your phone.
The camera? No.
I had my like most recent scary was I was in Kelowna on this shoot, this like agriculture shoot. We were doing these farm projects, and the farmer pulled up on his quad, and I had already set up my camera on its tripod. So it was my FX3 mic, everything kind of just rigged onto this, and I had flown there, so I had like not one of these really nice like sturdy video tripods, but something more like that Manfrotto, like a skinny guy. Anyway, so the farmer pulls up, we do the interview, his dog is with him, and then I went to go take his microphone off, his like lav mic off of his thing, and the dog got kind of excited, and so starts hopping around, and kind of got the zoomies a little bit, and so it circles around him, circles around me, and then just like kicked my tripod, and the whole it went in slow motion, like huge heavy camera on the top.
Yeah.
The most like fortuitous way it could have ever fallen is it rotated, so that I don't know if you have like D-tap batteries on the back of yours.
No.
But mine has like this big honky chunky battery on the back that powers like the camera, the display, and everything. It just perfectly fell on the battery into mud. So it was thunk, and just like nothing broken, just had to like wipe the mud off. But I was like, if it had fallen like a lens first, or like fallen in the other direction onto the pavement, like it would have been, and that was my only camera for that whole project. Like I was there for a week.
Yeah.
So that, I was equal parts like mad at the dog, but I was like, oh, I'm so grateful. Like I had to clean it off with a microfiber, and it was good.
Oh, lucky. Well, I'm just going to bring something up.
Sure.
Because I see you post shots all the time, and you're like looking into your camera, you've got the monitor sitting there beside you.
Yeah.
And you're kind of holding it, and you're taking your shot, and you've got somebody taking that photo of you, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
I just want to say, when I saw you in shots like that, and that you had that Nikon sponsorship, that like, I don't know if you know it, but that was like huge street cred in my eyes.
Oh wow.
Thinking about you, like a guy in Prince George.
Yeah.
You look so pro there. No, seriously.
Oh,
like, you look
thank you.
so pro there.
That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just so you know that.
Oh, that's really nice. It's a weird part of this journey is like you don't know who's like on Instagram. I have a few thousand followers, and like you just don't know what posts are going to resonate with what, or what's going to inspire what. And I lately have had like people reach out and say like they've really like been inspired by the photos or videos I've made over the years, and I never know how to respond other than just like, that's awesome. Like, I'm really glad that resonated, that like some, nincompoop for PG could like, like get a sponsorship and have like a bit of a bit of street cred. I don't even know for me, but for like people from the north is kind of how I see it. Like, there aren't many people who have like gotten to do cool stuff from PG, and so it's I'm really glad to hear that. That's really nice. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you definitely inspired me, and it was it was one of those things, knowing that somebody local. It's not just guys in Toronto and elsewhere that are doing stuff like that.
I think with that all the time. There's no reason we can't. Like, whatever. Sometimes I have this like sense that it's like the only thing stopping us from doing any of that stuff is just like feeling too cool for it or whatever. Like, the only reason, awkward and too cool, and like people might judge us or whatever. But the truth is, like, everyone's friggin' rooting for us. Like, there is like no one's. I've been doing some mixture of like content creation and video and photo and some version of being like a public person. Everyone's so nice and supportive. Like, this community really is that. Like, there's no evil messages I get of people being like, you suck. Like, everyone is just so stoked to see like cool photos of this town,
Yeah, you just got to overcome that. I was at the radio station doing an interview with Carol Gass.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I'm like, I need to vlog this and talk about it, right? So I went in, did that, and then I'm out in the parking lot and I'm lining up the camera with the building, and I'm standing there talking to the camera, and I'm like, they're all like in the window looking at me right now. Like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things you got to get over, right? You just got to get over that awkward feeling. And
it's like going to the gym. You just do reps and it gets more comfortable. Like,
right.
Even when Brittany and I made our little like wedding vlog, like that week of us kind of being in Jasper filming ourselves and like kind of having fun with it, it got so much easier by the end of it. Like just a week of sort of like training that reflex a little bit of like joking around with each other when the camera's on and like setting up a shot and talking to a camera, which is like, it is awkward. I was amazed with like how natural it felt by the end of just a week. Like, you really do just got to kind of brute force through that awkward early bit, and it just gets easier.
Cool. Well, everybody who wants to do it, you've heard it from the master here.
The master. Sure. Yeah, we'll say that.
Hey, Darrin. Well, we're beyond an hour, but
awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming
thanks
in
for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Having a great chat.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Cool.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, that was a struggle.
Was it?
No.
Yeah.